At the end of February, I decided to go and volunteer in a monkey sanctuary in Ecuador. It was called Paseo de los Monos. So I was in the rainforest. Here's a little picture of me in the rainforest, and yeah, I had a terrific time. But I really wanted to take advantage of it. I got to take time away from my business. I got to take time away. I got to get away from the Western world and really reset. And because of that, I was able to do some incredible content things. So as you can see here, I reached 14 million in the month of April. And yeah, I was going to do it. I did it absolutely with little to no equipment, stuff that you most likely already have at home. I've seen many business owners, content creators, they invest in the best things, especially when they're starting out. They're like, okay, this is what it's going to take. And then their videos flop. They don't reach the audience that they want them to reach. And the reason why I was able to do it with next to nothing is because I had terrific ideas. And I want to show you how I came up with those ideas. Okay, so let's just start. As you can see, I have at the time had a follower count of only about 35.5 thousand, and 14 million is a number that's much bigger than that. I did the math. It's actually almost 400 times bigger. So probably wondering, how is this even possible? So in case you haven't used Instagram much, the platform pretty much wants as much creativity as possible, meaning they want to promote original content as much as possible. And they want to do that by giving creators, businesses, even just like 12-year-old kids, like as much of a platform as possible, and giving them each an even chance to put out their videos. So tomorrow, any 6-year-old with an iPhone who doesn't know anything about social media could make a video, and probably will make a video that will reach millions of people, and they'll have no idea why. I want to show you how it's possible to create a video like that and to recreate it in order to have consistent views and to ultimately build to a brand, as I do with many of my clients. So as you can see here, these were the views I received for that month, give or take. And if you look here at the reels, it was 99.8% of them were from reels of the views that I received. So pretty good. And of course, and 99.1% of those views were from non-followers, which, considering that 400 times of my audience was watching it, this means that I was able to retain the brand, retain the followers that I had that entire time. And as I was saying, what's great about this Instagram thing, about how they can how everybody has an equal playing field, is it means anybody can reach huge audiences. But the caveat is that your views aren't guaranteed. So as you can see here, there's a big difference in, like millions to, here it goes from 6.5 million to 8,000 or something, which, is kind of crazy, even though the same amount of effort is put into each video. So yeah, it means that no matter how much of a viewership you build with one video, theoretically you can get 6 million. As you can see here, it can dip immediately. Nothing is guaranteed. And the only thing that you truly have control over, other than understanding how the algorithm works, is the quality of your videos, the consistency of how you post, and the brand that you're building at the end of the day. So we're going to go over all this. Do not worry. So I just want to go over the resources that I had, or rather the lack thereof. I didn't have a nice fancy camera. I didn't have a nice microphone. I didn't even have a tripod, which is what I used. I'll cut to a clip now just to show you the lack of resources I had. By the way, just to put into perspective how easy it is to film videos that go viral, I'm literally in a rainforest right now. This phone is upside down. I don't even have a tripod. I've been putting my phone here like that so it could be eye level. It's loud as fuck, as you can tell. If you just have the right tools, you can do whatever, really, and you can make anything go viral if you just have a good idea and a phone and you have somewhat of an understanding of how to make shit do well. You do not need the best stuff to create the best content. You just need great ideas. So let's go over the kinds of ideas and how you can create them. So I'm going to talk about creative rhythm. So a lot of people say post as much on Instagram as possible. The more, the merrier. Now, this might have worked about 5-10 years ago, something like that. It's not the case anymore. It doesn't matter how big of a following you have, anything like that. As we've gone over, the only thing you have control over is your brand, is your consistency. So you need to be, although it's good to post consistently, you got to make sure that each post that you make is as high of a quality as possible. Let's look at it like two different animals. Let's look at it like monkeys, which I was volunteering doing, and turtles. Monkeys, in their lifetime, they'll have, I don't know, like 5 kids, and they'll raise each one of them to survive because there's a high probability that each of them will survive. Turtles will have like 1 billion kids because they know there's a pretty good chance that 99% of them are not going to make it to survive. I act like the monkey. Long term, you got to act like the monkey. Each one of these videos, you got to give it the best chance of survival and having the best quality possible. Otherwise, if you post 100 videos in a month and only one of them does well, that's not a great percentage. And you're putting in the same amount of effort. I don't like that. And eventually, you're just going to burn out and you will not be able to have the consistent high quality that your brand deserves. So, I also think it's important to post the same amount every week. So, this means not doing like 2 one week and 7 the next. I think you need to figure out a good rhythm, a good creative rhythm, and figure out a schedule that works for that. Does that mean you make 1 video a week? Great. Does that mean you make 3 videos a week? Even better. As long as you can keep up the consistency of the quality and it all adds to your brand at the end of the day. So I've been doing this for 5 years. I have a pretty good idea of what my creative limits are. So if you follow me, you'll see that I make 3 posts every week on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Fridays. So at the same time, at 4 p.m., whatever time I'm living in, at those times every week. And creative workarounds do come up when I can't meet my own demand that I've made. More on that later. But I try to be as consistent as possible because at the end of the day, the consistency you build for your brand, for your Instagram, for your following is what they become accustomed to, and it's a social contract that you make between yourself and your followers. If you can't keep up with your demand, with their demand, then eventually they're going to turn their attention elsewhere because you're losing that trust. And at the end of the day, that trust is where all your power comes from as a creator. So just to give you an example of how I come up with my ideas, I wake up at 6 every morning. I go on a morning walk, breakfast at around 7. Then I'll come up with during that walk, I'll come up with a bunch of ideas and stuff that I was thinking of. And while I'm having my coffee, I'll write it all down on a notepad or on Notion. That'll take about 30 minutes. And by 8, I start work. I refuse to go on my phone until I come up with at least one good idea of the day. That's usually, sometimes I'll not be on my phone until noon. This pisses a lot of people off, but this is how I work. The idea being that by the end of the week, I'll have about 7 ideas that are at least pretty good, and I'll sketch out which ones I think have the best chance of doing well, and I'll cut 4 of them. So I'll only end up with 3. So I think only through trials and errors will you be able to find out what you or your team are truly capable of creatively. So, for example, let's look at artists like Juice WRLD or the author Stephen King. They have a ridiculous work rate. I think Juice WRLD was able to make like 1,000 songs in a year or something crazy like that, like good songs. And Stephen King famously can write like a book in an afternoon or something. Or are you more like Frank Ocean or George R.R. Martin, who don't release stuff for years, but every time they do release, it's magnificent. And they're both, each type of artist is very good and creatively a genius in their own right, but one is better for creating a personal brand. Do you want your personal brand to be like that of a submachine gun where it shoots out like a bullet every second, or a video every day of the week? Or do you want it to be like a sniper where maybe you post once a week or once every 2 weeks, but every single time it is a hit? So that is definitely something to think about when coming up with your branding. So whether you're a business owner, a content creator, or someone with a personal brand, you understand that branding is important. Your brand represents the status quo that you've built with your following, and it acts as the trust between you and your audience. So when you're coming up with ideas, you should always be asking yourself, will this add or detract from the brand that I've already created? So the account I'm showing you that received the 14 million views in that month is a personal brand. So this means that everything that I posted relates to me in some way. So a little more about me. I was born in the US, but I grew up in Europe and lived there for 15 years. So if you've seen my content, you will know that I like to make a lot of comparisons between the two, and definitely about the perceptions that both have about each other, which I find fascinating. I definitely have a darker sense of humor, as you may or may not know. I'm very outspoken. I do not mind saying things. As if you're a client of mine, definitely know that, and I have some wild ideas, but sometimes they work. I like traveling the world. The job I have gives me the opportunity to, and I've put myself in a position where I can go wherever I want, whenever I want, and I don't have to be ashamed of it. And it ultimately adds to the personal brand that I've created for myself. I'm a football fan. I grew up in England, particularly Arsenal, go Gunners. But yeah, so I make videos about that, and I'm a businessman. I'm doing this right now. So yeah, I like to make content about all these things and plus more. But that's just a little. Those are just some of the things that most people would tell you about when describing my brand. And the thing I'm probably most proud of is if you ask any of my friends, is he really like that in real life? I think they will all say yes, or at least a version of yes. Like maybe I edit it a little bit for the camera, but nothing that I do on video for my personal brand would surprise them. It all relates to me. It's all based on me at the end of the day, and that is something you just cannot buy: authenticity. So we'll talk more about this later. So I want to go over the tools that I use to be able to do this. So even though I didn't have the hardware of like a nice phone or even a good camera or the best computer, the tools that are available to you, many of them are free. It would be impossible to do this without these. So I just want to go over them and show you exactly the important stuff. So we'll be going through quite a bit, just to give you an example. But here, so first and easiest, Instagram. You're probably already using this, especially if you're watching this or interested in this. So look at the videos of the creators that you are inspired by. What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? Focus on what you can do better. So this is probably the easiest way to come up with organic content. I'll talk about that later. But yeah, organic content is almost always stuff that you didn't use a third party to come up with. It's just something that's personal to you and often works the best. So next is ChatGPT. Again, you're probably already using it because it's the most accessible AI on the planet right now, and definitely the most famous. So this definitely helps over time as you become an established creator, an established brand. But program your brand, program your writing style, your content style, your reel scripts, your ideas, anything else you can think of into ChatGPT. Give it as much context as you can, and then eventually it'll be your greatest confidant when it comes to making videos, when it comes to idea creation, title ideas, stuff that works for social media SEO, go-to-market strategies, brand elevation, etc., etc. Claude is more advanced than ChatGPT, and I like to use that as well. It's best for analyzing stuff, so I'll put videos, I'll put in scripts, that kind of stuff, and it's very great for content analysis, for a content calendar, which is what I was telling you about earlier, about adapting to your creative schedule, adapting different content for different markets, video and market redesigns, creating copy, establishing your voice, etc. Adobe Suite, very cheap, very useful. Takes a little getting used to, but I've been doing this for about 8 years with Adobe Suite itself. So Photoshop, great for editing pictures, of course, and for mastering your brand imagery. Premiere Pro to make big edits. These are all the things that are part of Adobe Suite. There's a lot more, but these are the things that I personally use. So you can make high professional quality video for Reels, TikTok, YouTube, whatever. This is for the big boys. The brand kit, which is very useful for a lot of teams that I work with, allows you to sync the brand's typefaces, colors, logos across all the Adobe apps remotely, which is amazing. And then of course there's a bunch more, but I'm just going through the things that I use. CapCut, this is specifically designed for content creators. I cannot recommend it enough. It's super easy to use, especially if it's for beginners. I use it on my computer. I pay it about €5 a month. It's awesome. It's one of the best things about it is that it's made by ByteDance, which is the same company that owns TikTok. So if you make a video on CapCut, you're given a little boost automatically when you post on a TikTok because they want to keep everything in the same ecosystem, which is amazing. And the best thing about it is that the AI tools are super easy to use and irreplaceable. So like stuff like auto caps or asking the AI to create videos and images, super easy, amazing. Notion, this is specifically good if you're working in a team, so it works as like a shared notebook for those of you who haven't heard of it. So I like to use it for like half-cooked ideas that maybe I get in the beginning of the week and might need to come back to later. That this includes big stuff like brand development, business ventures, or even relatively small stuff such as content ideas. it's all organized and it's all remote. Every client of mine that has a team of 3+ people uses it, and it's best for teams that need remote planning, scripting, organizing content creators, content calendars, and editorial pipelines. And finally, Canva. So a little about me. When I did an internship and I spent 2 months doing just Canva, so I'm pretty good with it. But it's probably the easiest editing and presentation software currently available. Super beginner friendly. I personally use it for the brand kit feature as well as the Adobe Suite that I was talking about earlier. It helps ensures color, font, and logo consistency across every team member's output. And like I said, it's best for teams that are of 3 or more people, or for inexperienced people who are just looking to get into design and need a good place to start. So I now want to talk about content variety. So in order to not stay creatively stuck, I think you need to have variety. Variety in your content allows your audience to not get bored or to move on. If you only make one piece of content or one type of content, eventually they can be like, okay, we've got enough of this shtick, because believe it or not, social media moves quickly. So you got to be able to evolve with your content and with your audience. Content variety allows you to further development of your ideas or of your brand. It gives you the ability to experiment with different types of content, to like pick and choose, like who do you want to be inspired by, who do you want to make stuff like, and so on and so forth. It allows you to not grow too reliant on one source. Ever heard of one single point of failure? If you only make talking head videos, eventually, like if people get bored and you don't have anything to pivot to, then you're going to be stuck in a content creation limbo where it's like, okay, well, the one thing that was working right, it's not working anymore, and I've got nothing to fall back on. And finally, you just don't get caught in a creative prison, which is honestly the worst thing I can imagine, at least for me, being that I can only make one thing and I'm stuck making that one thing forever. It's rough. So to give you an example of the content I've created, over this month, I broke it down into 4 weeks, and as I was saying, I make 3 videos a week. So I'm going to show you the variety of the types of videos I'm making. So week 1, first video was a repost. So I have no problem with reposting content as long as it stays within your standards, because as you develop as a content creator, as a brand owner, your standards will increase, and especially a lot more at the beginning of the quality that you have. And of course, as your skills increase, your quality will increase, and so will your need for the quality to continue to keep on going up. But this video, I think, was fantastic when I made it, and I think it's still pretty much in line with the quality that my followers expect. So I reposted it. Now, this one was an original idea. It was I wanted to make fun of particularly white people, but particularly Europeans. Different European cultures react to different things very, very differently, and I don't think a lot of people know that outside of Europe, but in Europe they're very aware. And I wanted to draw attention to that, and in a funny, comedic way. And I SEO'd it. I made sure to include all the flags. So the idea was like you're anticipating, like, okay, when do I come up? When do I come up? And it did very, very well, and I was enjoying that. And then this was another original idea about that I filmed on the roof of this place in South America. I wanted to make fun of American people because they don't really know how to deal with people who are not from the West, and I wanted to particularly draw an issue that I saw while in South America. I'm still here, by the way, but I wanted to draw an issue of American people not really knowing how to interact with, like, mainly when they go abroad and when they have to deal with, like, people, staff. So that didn't do too great, but I still think it was a good video. Again, every video I make has to reach a certain standard. Week 2, I did something similar about the first one, but I wanted to keep it about South America particularly. So it's like how guys talk about South America. If you've been around the block, you probably know that they hype it up a lot. This was a meme or a trend I wanted to do. So I make videos about Hungary, as I lived there for 4 years, and I have a reasonably large audience there. So every now and then I like to do one for the homeboys back home, and I'm half Hungarian, so I like to pay homage to that. The opening shot, I wanted to reuse a shot that I did last year when making a comedic video in my neighborhood in Budapest. This "Remember Who You Are" white Albanian, African, whatever boy. I wanted to jump in on that, and I saw no one did it for Hungary yet, so I was like, all right, great. This was a rework, the how we're going to be watching the 2026 World Cup. By that, I mean I've made videos similar to that before with the same format. It was basically just me shooting myself for a minute or two, and then like pretending to be like watching TV, going like, "Oh man, that sucks," be like making fun of how Americans don't know much about football, which is I'm a big fan of, and I enjoy talking about the parallels. So I just did a different shot. The original, or one of the originals I did, was with my client Thogden, who's a very big football YouTuber. So this was the biggest one. It got 3.3 million views on Instagram, and it was a collab post. But it was nice for the ego knowing that the one I just did by myself didn't need the boost from a big guy. It still got a pretty chunkable, large size of views, even in South America. So I enjoyed that. Week 3. This was the first one was a rework here, so how different white people talk about slavery, similar to the white people video before. This was edgy as well, at least to say, which is probably why it was probably too edgy, which is probably why I did 1/10 of the views as the rework that came after that. But I still think it was a cool video. Same idea, get the flags, make sure it's SEO to everybody in Europe and in mainly white countries, Canada, South Africa, Australia, they all see it, and get people talking in the comments. That's one of the best ways to make things go viral, to start discussion. Here in the middle was a promo that I made for my friend's business about coming to Medellin, where I'm in currently. Like I said, this was a promo, so we were selling something. We're selling an experience to come and join us and live us in Medellin for the month. We got a couple good leads, and we got some people coming through, so that was nice. But it wasn't meant to go viral. It was mainly meant to make some clients come with us and share a nice house in Medellin, a nice penthouse. So yeah. Here is a big one, 6.5 million, which is big even for me. It's big for Instagram in general. If you can make a 6.5 million view video, you've done very well. So this is about people talking about their language. As I said, this is much less edgy than the other two, so it reached a much bigger audience. And it was actually inspired by a post that I saw. So how people react when you try to speak their language. I used this. This gave me the eureka idea. I have no problem with taking ideas from other posts. And like I said, you can look on Instagram and get inspired by even small things like this, like a map. I was like, oh, I can just make a video, put a name to the face, make it go giga viral, and yeah, I think people would really enjoy it, and also expand it to U.S., Canada, Australia, etc. And then, sorry, this should be week 4. And then week 4, this was another WeWork, so I did those back to back, which wasn't great, if I'm being honest. And this was an inspired post. I saw a post talking about how different European countries talk about their neighbors, which was a similar map thing. I like to use these maps a lot because I get a lot of them on my Instagram feed. A caveat to using Instagram as your sole source of inspiration is if you do it too much, you might just like it too much. You might just copy content, and I don't recommend doing that. And then here was a repost, which I made while living in Budapest. So that was the different types of content that I made in this month period, just to show the variety. So just to give you an idea of what this would look like if it was translated into a business. So a lot of creators, businesses see social media rightly as a way to generate new clients. If you're going to make a video go viral, why not have it go viral showing your product, showing your service, and getting, hey, if 1 million people see this and 100,000 people click on the website, then boom, if it's a low ticket item, then you've just made a crap ton of sales for your business. That's the entire point of this, especially if you're a business, if you're a brand. So just to give you an idea of the amount of views that I got. So the profile activity on my page from all this, I got 18,000 people in that month who actually clicked on the page to look at it, at the very least, check other stuff out, like things. So that's good. And external link taps. Like I said, I was doing a promo thing. There was no call to action except in that one video, which a lot of people clicked on. And this was the only link that was put in my bio at the time. And 43, it was a high ticket thing that we were selling, which was multi $1,000 time to come to come to Medellin and spend a month with us and party with us and like work together. So yeah, I was pretty happy with these numbers. But of course, if you make more videos with call to actions, with advertising your products, you will get a lot higher. And so, there's a pretty decent chance that you clicked on the link on my Instagram bio and are watching this video because you saw CTA telling you to do so. So please keep in mind that this is all just on one app. Of course, there's still LinkedIn, there's Facebook's Reels, there's YouTube Shorts, there's TikTok. So like I said, there's been no CTAs, and yeah, and at the end of the day, all of this was still done, remember, without the proper equipment team that most professionals usually have. Usually when I have a good setup like this, with a good camera, with a ring light, of course, you can bring a lot more people to your business, which, hopefully everybody will be able to do. So I just want to leave this with one last thing, this here. So it's a Stan Lee quote. It's that if you have an idea that you genuinely think is good, don't let some idiot talk you out of it. So I like to make videos for me, but I also like to make videos for my friends. And oftentimes before I post something that I think is, very, very different, like this whole how different white people react videos, I like to send it into my friend group and see what they like. So this was my buddy Ali, who said 0 laughs, but I still thought it was good. Ali is still a great guy. I wouldn't be asking for his opinion if I didn't respect it, and it ended up getting 4.8 million views, which I think is pretty good, especially for me. So I just want to show you an excerpt from a PDF that I created called the Social Media Mindset. If you want a link to that PDF, it's going to be below this video. So in the middle of it is the most important thing I'd say when creating content is, do I like my content? If that answer is yes, then great, you made something terrific. Then you got to start thinking about, will my close family and friends like my content? Will the wider public like my content? Did my content reach a number of views that I'm happy with? And did this content add or detract from what I'm trying to build as a brand, as a business, that kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, if you yourself like what you're making, don't let some idiot talk you out of it, even if he is your boy. I think that's very important. So at the end of the day, no one can tell you what your vision is. No matter what your friends, family, or even the algorithm says, the only thing that truly matters is, do you like your content? You're the only one who knows your own potential. You're the only one who knows the necessary steps that it's going to take to get there. And if you truly enjoy something, and you think the rest of the world should see it, show them. And I guarantee you that if you do it, and if you do it with a high quality, and if you do it with a great mindset, eventually you're going to reach the audience that you want to reach. And then with that, you can do whatever you want as we go into. So just want to end. Go to my website if you want. It's underneath this video, SaulMaxwell.com. So regardless of what stage you are in content, in creating content, I'm sure I can help. So if you're even from someone who's wondering if you should do it or not, to beginners, to people who've already established a brand, or if you have a company and you're willing to put in the investment and to get your content to reach the audience you want and to reduce costs, click the link below, and I'd love to see what I can do to help. So thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next time. Bye, guys.